Welcome to Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal, a doctor of East Asian medicine and a holistic transformational coach. Here we will shine light on wisdom keepers, paradigm shifters who inspire us to live thriving, joyful lives. Let's be inspired. Although I am a doctor of East Asian medicine, this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It does not replace professional medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare provider for guidance on your personal health needs. Hello, beloveds. Welcome to the Dr. Krystal Podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal. I hold space for people going through the fire of transformation. And here we hold space for real truths, sacred stories, so that you know that you are not alone and that there's light on the other side. And I am so delighted to introduce to you Julie Reisler, a heart-led intuitive guide, teacher, and host of You-est You Podcast. She is the founder of Intuitive Life Designer, Coach Academy, and board certified master coach who teaches at Georgetown University. She is known for her ability to see others' highest potential. Julie works clairaudently, clairvoyantly, and claircognitively, and blends spiritual insights with grounded coaching to help people trust their inner wisdom, embody self-love, and live in alignment with their truest self. I love all of that, and I can't wait to dive in. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. This is going to be just such a good conversation. I can feel it already.
Yeah, so I always love to hear what sacred means to each person. What does sacred mean to you?
I love that question. I love this question. I'm actually going to answer it probably from a very macro perspective. And I truly believe that everything that is you, that's me, that's anybody listening, anybody, any aspect of this world is sacred. So it is in everything. And it is, in my feeling and connection to it, it really has the blueprint, the thumbprint of the divine, of source. And so anything that we tap into, whether it's our stories, whether it's trauma at the cellular level, any aspect of our life has elements that are sacred and has aspects of the divine. It is always going to be, am I coming at it from a place of fear and ego and separation, or am I coming at it from a place of love and I would say compassion and curiosity is a good one as well. Sacred inherently is truly like the back of the tapestry that's all threads that you don't know what it is. It's the divine. You can't always understand it or see it, but it's the thread in everything, the golden thread in all. I think of it as sort of like a divine essence, I would say.
I
Yeah.
love that. I already have so many questions, but as you know, this is about sharing your sacred story. So I'm so curious what story wants to come through you today.
Yeah. And any questions you have, like we can discuss anything. I'm an open book. It's interesting when you were reading my bio, I was like, oh, if only people knew it took 51 years to say clairaudient, clairvoyant, claircognizant, like to step into that. And I think that's what I want to talk about.
I know, and can you define each of those for not everyone understands that it's like visions or hearing or knowing.
So I think to level set, just to start, everybody has intuition, and it's something I've found myself obsessed with. I think in part because, Krystal, there were so many years I didn't listen to it or didn't want to acknowledge it. We all have it. We all have it to different degrees. It's something I believe we can all access. I think about it like batteries included, like we are all wired with batteries included. I do think some of us have maybe a gift or propensity, our soul contract to have even more access to it, to part of our greater purpose here. I think if anyone, if you're listening, if you're like I've been feeling a nudge to expand it, then to pay attention, because I know many people that don't feel that. I think when you have that leaning in, that is part of your intuition. That's part of your wisdom. So, in terms of clairaudient, claircognizant, the four clairs really kind of look at intuition, I would say, at a deeper level, even maybe at the psychic level. And so, clairaudient, just like it sounds, audient is the clear hearing, the ability to hear. Clairvoyant is the vision, the visioning, the visual, clear abilities to see. And then claircognizant is really that knowing, like that inner knowing
Mm,
with no logic. And clairsentient is that feeling, like sentient sensing. And so, and I do have that at points as well. But, it took me a long time. I mean, I just turned 51 and it's so interesting. I was actually just in Colorado. I was just doing a life between life regression and then had this just, I don't know what to call it, another spiritually transformative experience. I don't want to get ahead. I'll go kind of back to my story, but it took me a long time to be able to say that as a highly intuitive person that has been able to hear, see, and know for a long time in different capacities, to feel comfortable saying that. I really feel like
mm,
for me, my upbringing, very, very loving parents and family. There also was a lot of trauma. My father was a veteran and had a lot of
mm,
PTSD. This was in the 80s, like before we knew what we know now. I always, I don't know how else to say this. I always knew, even though he was so loving to me, I could read his thoughts. I could
mm,
feel his despair, his depression. This is not something you would have seen or known. I could feel and sense and sometimes hear the words of how he felt with my mom, which was probably, I would say, somewhere between like the older brother slash at times, unfortunately, a little bit more of a bully with her.
mm.
And so a lot of these just natural, I just sensed this. I could hear it. I could feel it. I was hyper aware of people and their energy and what they were saying and not saying. I also was that one that, when I would go, a lot of my friends in the New England area had homes up in the mountains. And I remember going to this one friend's home and we would do nature walks and draw. And I just remember feeling like the entire forest, feeling trees, commune with them, with the plants, the animal. Like it just felt like I was home. I was like, oh, I remember having that a lot, like just being able to connect at a very deep level, both with people, but also animals and nature. Um,
Nature sounds more loving and peaceful.
yeah, I
So,
mean,
yeah,
talk about holding the frequency we want to go into, and that's
yeah.
healing and harmonizing. It was confusing because there was a lot of love and there was also a lot of trauma and a lot of financial hardship with my
Yeah.
parents. And my dad. And so food was love and
Mm,
was the way that it was expressed. And I would say the thing about that is that really became a comfort, a blanket. And
mhm,
when, for me, I struggled with food addiction and overeating sugar and things like that. And, what can happen is rather than dealing with emotions, when you use a drug, that is a drug, it blocked a lot of feelings, which felt helpful at the time, but it also blocked my access a lot of times to my intuition. Not 100%, but it was like it would just stop kind of it got numb from that. That was a coping mechanism. We have that in my family, different flavors of addiction. That was really the one that I struggled with. And I think a lot of those abilities, they would come and go. I would get a sense about someone. I would get a knowing about someone. I have a memory. I'll share this because it plays into today. I was probably like 8 or 9. I was just walking out in the area where we lived, and I just had this like unbelievable loving presence come into me and
mm,
feeling. And it said, I knew it was like what I heard, what I felt was, you are going to teach this. And I went home and told my parents. Actually, my parents, as I said, very loving, were like, well, that's great. It sounds like you are going to teach love. And I was
mm,
raised through the Jewish faith. I feel very connected to all. But for me at that age, the only term that came up was rabbi. That's all I knew. And that's all they knew.
mm,
I thought, okay, I don't really see myself doing that. But okay, like I just knew something, this energy, this warmth, this presence was so all loving. And it felt like for a moment I had a reprieve from a lot of self-loathing. And I think a lot of the shame and sadness I was holding from my dad, highly sensitive, highly empathic. So fast forward, got married really young, good person, and I'm glad we have two amazing kids. I had a complete wake up in the middle of the night, like people talk about dark night of the soul, and it happened right around my 33rd
Mm.
birthday, 33 in the morning, which is fascinating.
Oh,
And it just was basically, I was married to someone who a bit on the religious side, big family, like you just kind of, which was fine. It just felt to me stifling. Um,
right.
I feel really more related and connected to the idea that we're all connected to the one, not one specific religion. I honor all paths, but for me, it's a little more vast. Anyhow, I had just been shoving down emotion, had been in support work and been doing a lot of individual therapy and work on myself and had this premonition. I heard a voice super loud. I mean, it literally felt like if you've seen the Truman Show, like when he takes his boat into the canvas, like of the set, the TV set, and his whole world kind of shatters, right? And I
Mm.
felt like someone pulled the curtain down. All of a sudden, I woke up and it was a big, voice that sounded, it was me, but it sounded like, I know now, higher self, that just said, you can't be here anymore. You can't do this life in this
Mm.
way. And that was 15 years ago. And that was the moment I thought I was dying of a heart attack. I was having a panic attack. I'd never had that before. And then I started getting premonitions of what would happen to me if I did not leave.
Oh, wow.
So hard because nothing horrible was happening. It wasn't like that. But, I didn't have the words energy. I didn't realize it was not a match energetically. And
Mm.
that is where everything I would say did a complete U-turn between
Mm.
going back to school, health crisis, found myself passed out in a Target of all places, and then left my
Wow.
corporate day job as a single mom, and finally got heard the message over and over and over and over again, you need to leave and start your own business. And I had no background in doing that. So it's been quite a journey of really learning to love and honor myself and
Mm.
my intuition, and that's a lot of what I stand for all of us, women especially, but anyone that wants to be on that path.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, and it sounds like you knew at a young age that, oh, I'm going to teach this. I'm going to teach love, this higher frequency, but you didn't know. And then you followed this traditional path, right? That's within your culture and your lineage and doing what you thought you were supposed to do. And it felt, you said stifling was the word that you used, and you're more expansive. And so it's so interesting that the way the universe and spirit, higher power, whatever you want to call it, will give us signs and signals. And if we don't get the subtle cues, there'll be a big cue that's like passing out, or panic attack or big illness. And what would you recommend to someone? We're moving into, I mean, this is my interpretation. I don't claim to know anything anymore now that I'm 50. I used like in my 30s, I was like teaching Kundalini yoga and thought I knew something, right? But like life has humbled me. So I can feel my intuition and and I sense and what I hear from other wisdom keepers is like, time is speeding up. The earth is changing, we're evolving rapidly. We now have AI and all of these things. So life is like you and I have seen ridiculous amounts of change. I mean, VHS tapes, CDs, records, like like a phone on the wall where, answering machines, to now, so now we're about to see this other leap. I feel excited about it, but I also feel like time is of the essence. And if we can start picking up, what would you say to recommend to someone who's feeling those little quiet things? How can they listen and really tune in so that they don't have to have the car crash or the coma or the passing out?
No, it's a really good question. I mean, I had this thyroid diagnosis that I'm still healing from today, and I didn't
Yeah.
miss the message that that is the throat chakra, right? That is about speaking truth. So, number one is attention, awareness, pay attention. pay attention to your body, pay attention to the signals. You know, one of the things that I teach and have people do is often to start tracking. I don't love that word, but to collect evidence, collect what are you
Mm.
noticing? What's happening is our body, often our body, oftentimes sensations, thoughts, we're getting a lot of information and we can quickly dismiss it. It's very easy. I mean, it's a very
Mhm.
distractible society most of us live in. I mean, prior to that, I would say the most important thing is excellent sleep, is
Yeah.
prioritizing sleep. There's my
I
I
love
always
that.
get little spirit signs. I don't know when that happens or why. I just got thumbs up. Prioritizing sleep and some sort of connecting in, whether you call it
Mhm.
meditation or breath work or walking in nature, like something that is helping to bring coherence and to
And
bring both coherence, meaning in the heart and brain, but also in your nervous system. And so
mm,
that is important because I do believe this energy, the frequency of spirit, of messages, of intuition, higher self is at a high frequency. It's a
mm,
and to be able to connect to it, you want to be able to allow and receive it. So part of that is directing your attention, setting the intention. There's something here, and I am intending to connect because it's natural. We've been
mhm.
taught this is something for some people. No, it's for everybody. If you, and especially not everyone may want to connect to it, but if you are leaning in, and that's where you can use your body as a pendulum, as a muscle testing. If you're feeling like, oh, especially as you're listening, right, to this even, are you leaning in? Are you feeling, I want to be able to have my own higher answer at all times? That's why I'm obsessed with this idea, with intuition and learning how to decode it, because
Mm,
all of the highest, the best good for you and for everyone around you is, I do really believe, and I know it sounds, it can sound a little trite, but it's true. It's in us. It really is in us. And if we are
mhm.
missing it and we're not present, we're gonna miss the cues. We're gonna miss the beautiful evidence. Really paying attention. First, I would say making sure you're really taking care of the body, the temple that is
Right.
housing your soul, and deciding and tending, and then really making sure you're paying attention.
Yeah. It's like that time in nature that you spoke about. I'm imagining that when you were younger and you could feel your dad, that was overstimulating to the nervous system and maybe hard to interpret or felt a little like scary. And what does that mean? And why is he thinking that about my mom? And then there'd be like, well, I'm going to eat because I don't want to feel that. I don't want to think about that. But then you go out into nature and there's this stillness and there's this slowing down and this quiet. So then you can really hear just you and that frequency of nature that is so loving, so abundant, so lush. And now that we live in this world of overstimulation and distraction, we process more information in one day than our ancestors did in their whole lifetime. So I think what you are teaching and what you're called to share with the world is so needed right now during this time of like bombardment of social media and information and I think our nervous systems are overstimulated and so we have never been taught how to the original peoples, the original tribes that was normal. They knew, right? I think that it was normal to understand nature and frequency and energy. And I don't know if they called it that. The quantum field is what Joe Dispenza talks about a lot. But we're swimming in it and we're picking up on stuff constantly. And we swim in the sea of Wi Fi full of information. And so to have techniques to calm the nervous system, to have sacred pause, to slow down, all of those things are just so incredibly important. So I'm so glad that you have these academies. Like, when I look at your bio, I want to know more about. Of course, I want you to share what is You-est You Podcast? Like, I love that. And then I'm so curious, what do you teach at the university? I mean,
Yeah.
in the academy. So, is this working with the different clairs and the different intuitions? Is that a new thing that's coming on board for you to share, even though it's old and you've had it? Is that a fairly new offering, or is you going to incorporate it into the things that you're doing?
Yeah, these are some really good
I
questions.
know I just question stacked you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. And I'm like, that's so great. I got it. I love it. I think I can connect the dots. Look, everything from that moment on that in when I was 33 at 3:33, I really made a decision to follow my intuitive guidance for the most part.
Mm,
I mean, so everything that has happened since starting a business, the healing work I've done internally, going back to school. I got a master's degree. I was really lucky. I went to a brick and mortar place where I did health and wellness coaching, but we did integrative
mm,
health and studying, Dr. Bruce Lipton, epigenetics, mind body
mm,
science, integrative functional nutrition, like that, just was
mm-hmm,
immersed in that. And I think for me, my framework came from a highly kind of academic background. I grew up outside of Boston. You can imagine there's like
mm-hmm.
500 universities. So some really good ones. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
coming out of there getting my degree. This is when I was still working corporate as a single mom, and I was just listening and following guidance. And let me pause for 1 second. I want to go back to what you were saying really quick because this is important. I have a feeling because like attracts like anyone who's listening, probably highly sensitive and high empath. And
Mhm.
so knowing my dad was suicidal, I didn't really say that earlier. It's important to say it was really things that absolutely would not have been known. He has told me later, he's still here, thankfully. And he knows to some degree that I could pick up on it. I don't think he fully knows to what degree. None of that was said out loud. None of it. He didn't talk about it. So there's like a code of we don't talk about anything in my household growing up. So for those of us that are high empath, highly sensitive, and have any sense of kind of reading between the lines, claircognizant, all of those, it's confusing, right? And so
Mm,
for me, deciding to go back to school to get into coaching and to follow this intuitive guidance, this went against everything that was in
mm,
that I was swimming in. And I think this is the case for many of us who are waking up. If you were raised with schooling and academia and it's a certain way and or religion or you're at some point probably going to have a moment of the way I'm doing life is probably going to shift to some degree. And so that takes courage. And what I found was I worked with a coach in a program that just changed my life. And that's what got me to go back to school. I was coaching in his program and I thought, I've got to do this. I went and got my degree in it. So what's interesting is my kind of opening up to realizing these intuitive gifts actually came through this academic and then coaching
mm,
portal. I think that was safer for me and my nervous
mhm.
system.
Yeah.
And so I started teaching at Georgetown in their health and wellness coaching program. And coaching at the time, 15 years ago, wasn't what it is today. People had no idea I was leaving my job to coach. They thought it was crazy. The long story short is it's, the divine, this sacred thread of connection has been guiding me. And what came through it was so I teach people to become coaches, but
Oh, okay. At
I
the university.
I teach them at the university, but I have my own certification as well. And what started as a program, I had heard life designer, I had trademarked it. I didn't even know
Mm,
why. I thought, I just want something about you being empowered to design your life. After 11 cohorts, I shut it down because I got this, like, I'm not supposed to teach it this way anymore. I need something else. I shut it down. It was a big deal for me because that was
mm,
something I was guided to do. And what came in, and this is important because sometimes we're on a path and it's like, nope, it's time to shut it down or change. And I
mhm,
was really, it's a big part of my business. And
mm,
you have got to bring in intuition in a much bigger way. And
mm,
this entire download around what is now my intuition school. And that came in. And so I reopened this program and now I do both. I weave in intuition school with teaching coaches. But what I'm realizing, and I've been seeing this throughout, is the coaching, holding sacred space, being able to give people, the ability to feel, to connect, to vision, to dream, to expand, to transform.
mm,
That is medicine. That is
mhm,
holy. That is sacred work.
mhm,
You
mhm,
bring in your own intuition and learning how to expand it. That is a whole different thing. I am
mm,
always been able to see people's higher self, like your highest vision. I will get visions. I
mm,
will hear about it. But I didn't say anything, Krystal,
mm,
because I felt like, oh my God, I can't say this out loud. Like, what the heck?
mm,
This isn't. academic. I didn't get a degree in it. Like I really pushed it down. But
Mm,
people who worked with me were like, wow, I always, this came up and I started to really accept it. And that is
mm,
something, I guess what I would say is we all have higher guidance. I believe our soul has got plans for each of us. There's something way bigger going on, and it's always for the best in this earth school. And so starting a podcast, I woke up and heard you're going to start a podcast.
mm. And how long have you been doing your podcast?
Almost 9 years.
Oh my gosh, you're ahead of the curve, sister.
Yeah, that's spirit.
That's a long
That's
time
divine.
ago. I mean,
Yes.
now it's like a thing, but
Yeah.
nine
Yeah.
years ago you were ahead. You're an innovator. You're a trailblazer
Yes.
kind of, right?
It's so interesting. This is what I believe happens when it's like my whole business, people are like, "What's your business plan?" I'm like, "I don't have one. It's
I love
spirit
that.
led. I don't know. When I get the message, I run with it. Right
Yeah.
now, I'm in the midst of shifting it. I'm going to be renaming it, and I just got you need to rename it, and you need to do more healing in it and more
Oh,
solos. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay. So there's a bit of the
oh.
faith and trust is a real thing. I'm living this every day. It is a wild ride, but I know each of us has access to being guided. I know it.
I love that. So what would you tell someone who's like, well, I was on that path, I was doing this, and I know it's not it. I have to shut it down, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, when in doubt, like when you're not sure, I've heard don't like wait, pause. I would get very curious. One of the tools which you might know of already, I call it intuitive journaling. It's similar to two-way prayer.
Yeah, I love
Um,
two-way prayer. Mhm.
love two-way prayer. It's saying you have it in you to connect with the higher aspect of you that is not your brain and logic and sense. Start getting curious. Curiosity is one of the best, I would say, medicines we have because it gets
Mhm.
you out of fear and ego. It gets you out of having to figure it out. It gets you into like, what if, what about, or how might I, right? So
Mhm.
those kinds of questions to a prayer. I would certainly start your meditation practice and bring it to meditation, bring it or prayer, sitting still. I am a huge fan. I have my own deck and then I use oracle cards a lot.
Mm,
It's one of my
mhm,
tools. It is unreal. I feel like the divine speaks to me. It has never failed. I mean, I now do it
mm,
with groups, I do it with individuals, but I myself. And so if you're not sure, I would also look at what lights you up? Like your
mhm,
energy is your passport, it's your blueprint. So, where do you feel like your energy is rising and where do you feel like it's falling? Where it's rising, where there's momentum, where you're leaning in, that is something to pay attention to. And it doesn't matter. You don't judge it. That's what I did. I was like, oh my God, Oracle cards? Really? Like seeing people's higher self? That's weird. Like spiritual doodling? What? No, this has become, it's so
mm,
funny to me now. I'm like, oh my God, this is actually it's kind of like heliotropic, where the plants go is based on the sun, right? Plants
mhm.
grow towards
Lean
the sun.
towards, yeah.
So we grow towards our own sun, our own energy. So
Mm,
think of it that way. I think of myself, the business, all of it is I'm gonna grow where that energy and that light and that nourishment and that sun energy is. And
mhm,
that's wherever that is, that is. But first, if you're not sure, you probably have more information than you think you do. You might
mhm,
not be wanting to look at it. And look, I don't think some of us have that one thing we're doing. I'm someone who says we do not fit in a box. We don't have to fit in a box, and it can change and shift. Earth curriculum for each of us is completely unique. So you want to go inside. I work with people doing this, and I'm always like, the most important thing is your inner guidance for yourself. No matter what someone else tells you,
yes.
you feeling it for yourself. And I get worried when it's not done that way
Mm,
because this is
uh,
something we all have access to. It's free, it's our birthright, it is part of who we are.
sounds like maybe that's part of what you teach people is getting in contact with their inner compass.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So there's a lot there that you said that I love. First of all, some people might be listening, they're like, what is two-way prayer? And it's kind of like morning pages in the artist way where with morning pages, you just get up and you just write. You just jump and write. And you just write. No editing, no filtering. And you can add to this too for two-way prayer. My understanding, I love it, is you write a note to your higher power, God, creator, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, and you ask questions, and then you just start intuitively writing answers, right? So that's why it's a two-way. Is there anything else you would add to that?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, absolutely. There's ways you can kind of make it your own. So something I'll do, I might ask a question, and then for me, I always do a heart with a little arrow, kind of like that's higher power. That's the divine right here. And I
Uh,
take a breath, I put my hand on my heart, and I just ask to please empty myself of, any fears or ego or concern, just empty anything in myself so I can be a vessel. And then I just
mm,
write and you write whatever. So I like that moment of intention and kind of I like hand to heart. That is very, very soothing for me.
mm-hmm,
And you just write and write and write and write. And there's no editing, there's no judging allowed. If you
mm,
do this enough, what you will start to notice, I'll go back and sometimes circle words or things that I'm hearing over and over again. It has been life changing when I do it. I don't do it every
mm,
day, but when I do it, it is very, very powerful. And the answers, you might even start to feel like, huh, it's me, but it feels like a different energy going on or vibration.
mm.
And so this is a beautiful way to connect.
I love it. It's really special. I don't do it every day, but I do love to do it. And then when you mentioned spiritual doodling, it reminded me of these teachers who are doctors of Chinese medicine and they're astrologers. And they talked about that we're going through this period. I'm not an astrologer. I just love to geek out on it, I guess I should say, or I like to listen to it, but I don't claim to be a teacher or knower of that. But it's my understanding that there's something coming in February with Neptune, the dreamer, and Saturn, the teacher. And Neptune's going to be how we dream into our new world. And Saturn's going to be how we ground it in with discipline and structure and bring it down to earth. And she talked about the importance of daydreaming, of
Yes.
doodling and daydreaming and taking that spacious time to, because in our culture it's like do 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 work work work, and like downtime is not appreciated. I think it's becoming more and more appreciated, but that spiritual doodling, like just taking that time to watch the clouds float by and see what images you see and that sort of thing. So I just thought I just that's what it made me think of when you said spiritual doodling. So there's all these amazing ways to come in contact with our intuition. I just when you share, I feel your warm heart, I feel your authenticity, and you're genuine, and you really there's a compassion and a love there that feels warm and safe. So I think it would be such an honor for someone to study with you and to learn these things. So before we close, is there I know we just shared some practices, but is there any other sacred practices that you'd like to share with people?
I feel like anything can be made sacred. Anything that we're doing, it's really, am I putting my intention? Am I remembering, oh yeah, I'm a soul having a human experience. So I want to just say that like anything and
Mm,
everything can be made sacred, can be brought to the sacred, can be that, oh yeah, I'm not separate. Oh yeah. And I have to remind myself all the time. That's why I start with
mm,
the practice. I will say one that's very simple that it's become like my routine when I go to bed and when I wake up. And you do not have to be Reiki trained to do this. I
mm-hmm,
kind of mentioned before about heart coherence, and I've done a lot of studying with the Heart Math Institute. They have so much science around
mm,
the intelligence of our heart, the electromagnetic field, the importance of coherence, harmony. What I think we're really talking about, and I'd go back to the sacred definition, is I think it's harmony. I think it's
mm,
I wouldn't even say balance because balance gives this sense that it's going to be like always, an equilibrium, but there's a harmony, just like with
mm,
music. There's a flow, there's a dance, there's a movement, in this plane we have duality, in other planes we don't, right? So
mm-hmm,
here, the flow of the in and the out, the harmony of that. That's really what I think of. So for me, what I do, I started doing this when I did my Reiki training, and it's funny. I took out all of the other hand positions, and what I do is I always go to bed with my hands on my heart and I'm getting
mm,
tingling in my head and I'm just a little like nudge saying this is something to share this because everyone can
mm,
do this and
mm-hmm,
it's so healing. So I always go to bed with my hands on my heart. Sometimes I'll go through really, really, really like what is just miraculous? And it's like, oh my God, your heart is beating, you're
Mm.
breathing. What's miraculous about you? And then I wake up with my hands on my heart. And I notice sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, what I'll do is I'll put my hands on my heart immediately. It's
Mm.
become rather than grabbing the sugar or buying the thing or doing other, it's like that is so grounding and nurturing. I do it a lot during the day, but there's something holy and sacred about going to bed and waking up with hands on your heart. And I would say that is a practice we can all do, and it's just very comforting and very loving. I do think understanding we're all sacred and loving yourself is so crucial, so important.
Mm. Yes, I love that. You get to self-nourish instead of looking outside of yourself. You get to
Yeah.
just very somatic and affirming. So
Yeah.
thank you. So how can people find you?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, first of all, loved getting to be here with you. I think the best thing, I have a website. It's constantly, there's changes because I'm constantly
Yeah.
changing. It's just juliereisler.com. Very simple. I do have a YouTube channel, also my name, where I have the podcast. I also have a ton of free meditations and
Mm.
things like that. And I'm on social media a bit. It's something I have a love slash not always in love with relationship, but I'm Instagram,
Totally get it.
Julie Reisler. Everything is kind of under my name, but all of the information's on my website. And I feel really called to take that 8-year-old girl, like what I was felt there. I feel like it's coming into focus now. And I know as a healer yourself and anyone listening, like, I really do believe the like attracts like. So we're all in
Mm.
this together.
Mm-hmm.
We're all part of this shifting. I don't know, even consciousness. I think that it's more remembering. It's of
Mm-hmm.
remembering
Mm-hmm.
anything that feels, not loving is not you. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that is a really
Yes.
important thing to me, what I'm here for. And if anyone's interested and want to chat or connect or see how it can be a support, I always love connecting with humans. I love people. I really do.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for being on here. And thank you to all the listeners. And remember, until next time, your healing is sacred and we are all family. Thank you for joining me on Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. If today's episode lifted you up, I'd love if you shared it with a friend, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps more people discover these stories of light and transformation. And if you'd like to work with me more closely, head over to www.drkrystalkinnunen.com. And as a thank you for listening to the show, you'll receive $20 off your first session. Details are also in the show notes. Remember, in this time of rapid change and transformation, you are not alone. You are part of a greater shift, and your inspired life matters. Until next time, let's be inspired.